Okay, close your eyes for a second and picture this. Imagine you've got a bright overhead light shining straight down on a record player, and there's a little ball sitting right on the outer edge of the turntable. As it spins, look down at the floor. What is the ball's shadow actually doing? The ball itself is traveling in a perfect endless circle, right? But the shadow? It's literally just sliding back and forth in a completely straight line. Back and forth, back and forth.
By the end of this explainer, we're going to completely master the hidden connection between that circular motion, the waves it creates, and the actual math that drives all of this in the real world. We are taking the circle and breaking it straight down into simple harmonic motion.
Section 1. From circles to waves. Now that we can conceptually see the shadow's path, let's map it out.
So let's look at this comparison. On one side, you have point P moving along the circle. You can think of this like a horse on a merry-go-round or that ball on our turntable. It's perfectly experiencing uniform circular motion, which just means it's traveling around the center at a constant angular velocity. But if you look at the exact same system from the side, just watching that one-dimensional shadow sliding along the horizontal x-axis, that is simple harmonic motion. Notice how it speeds up as it whips across the center and then totally slows down as it reaches the edges before turning around. To really visualize how this back-and-forth shadow trick creates a wave, imagine doing a quick DIY experiment. Picture attaching a wooden dowel rod to the outer edge of that spinning record player and taping a pen to the other end. If you turn it on and then slowly drag a long piece of paper underneath that pen at a constant speed, what do you get? The pen literally traces out a beautiful, perfect wave. That circular motion is drawing a simple harmonic wave right before your eyes.
Section 2. Deriving the math. We've got the concept, so let's build the exact formula step by step.
Watch how beautifully this comes together. Step 1. The horizontal position of our shadow, little x, is simply the maximum radius, capital X, multiplied by the cosine of the angle theta. That's just basic right triangle geometry. Moving to step 2, we know that the angle theta is constantly changing as the turntable spins, so theta equals our angular velocity, omega, times time, t. And then step 3, we just substitute that right in, and boom! Our position formula is little x as a function of time equals capital X times the cosine of omega t. And guess what? That perfectly matches the classic formula for a simple harmonic oscillator.
Now, I did just casually drop the term angular velocity, denoted by that little curvy omega symbol. Just to make sure we're completely on the same page, angular velocity is just the constant rate an object is traveling around a circle. We measure it in radians per unit time. And since a full circle is 2 pi radians, and capital T is the period, the time it takes for one full revolution, omega is simply 2 pi divided by capital T. Simple enough, right? But wait, here's a massive point of confusion I hear from students all the time. They ask, if the ball itself is moving at a perfectly constant speed around the circle, why on earth does the shadow speed up and slow down? Shouldn't the shadow just move at a constant speed too?
It is such a great question, and the answer is entirely based on geometry. You see, the shadow is just the projection of the circle's maximum velocity onto the x-axis. Because the angle of the ball is constantly changing as it spins, the horizontal slice of that velocity is changing right along with it. Think about it. When the ball is at the extreme left or right edges, its movement is entirely vertical, meaning the horizontal shadow literally stops moving for a split second. But when it crosses the center, its motion is entirely horizontal, so the shadow hits absolute maximum speed. The velocity and displacement vectors actually form similar right triangles.
Which brings us to the really cool part, calculating that changing speed. By using the ratio of those similar triangles, step 1 shows us that velocity v divided by maximum velocity v max equals the square root of capital X squared minus little x squared, all divided by capital X. For step 2, we just rearrange to solve for v. And you know what's absolutely amazing about this final velocity equation? It is exactly the same equation we get when we use the conservation of energy to analyze a physical mass bouncing on a spring. It's the exact same math.
Section 3, the period formula. Let's see how this ties into finding the exact time of one full cycle.
Okay, we can determine the period for any simple harmonic oscillator using this exact circular connection. Step 1, the period, capital T, is basically the circumference of the circle, 2 pi capital X, divided by the maximum velocity. Moving to step 2, pulling from our knowledge of energy conservation in springs, we know that capital X over V max equals the square root of mass m divided by the spring constant k. Step 3, just plug that right in. T equals 2 pi times the square root of m over k. Uniform circular motion just handed us the exact same period formula as a classic mass spring system.
Section 4. Real-life examples. Let's ground all this theory into some actual reality.
Here are 3 textbook scenarios where this exact math shows up. First, imagine a little ladybug sitting 12 centimeters out from the center of a vintage Beatles album, spinning at 33 1/3 RPM. Second, an 85-kilogram person stepping onto a bathroom scale and causing a tiny bounce of 0.2 centimeters, because that scale essentially acts like a super stiff spring. And third, a tiny 10-gram mass bouncing up and down on a novelty clock spring. Every single one of these relies on simple harmonic motion.
Let's actually look at the result for that person stepping on the bathroom scale. Their maximum velocity during that tiny bounce comes out to exactly 0.266 meters per second. We found that just by applying the exact same relationships between circular velocity, amplitude, and the spring constant we were just talking about. It's honestly pretty wild to realize that theoretical math can pinpoint the exact speed of a tiny bounce on your normal everyday bathroom scale.
Okay, really quick, I have a challenge for you to test your retention here. Think back to that velocity formula with the square roots we looked at earlier. At what exact position, meaning what ratio of little x over maximum radius capital X, is the speed of our simple harmonic oscillator exactly half of its maximum speed? Think about it for just a second. Did you get it? The answer is plus or minus the square root of 3 over 2. Remember, the velocity relationship is based on a square root curve, not a linear straight line. So the speed doesn't just neatly cut in half right at the halfway mark of the distance. No way. You actually have to be way closer to the outer edge, at about 86.6% of the maximum amplitude, for the speed to finally drop down to half of Vmax. Section 5. Final takeaways. Before we wrap up, let's summarize the key concepts we conquered today.
Delivering on our learning promise from the start. First, we definitively proved that uniform circular motion is a perfect one-dimensional projection of simple harmonic motion. Second, that position maps out beautifully to a cosine wave. Little x equals capital X cosine omega t. Third, the speed fluctuates based on that geometry, giving us v equals Vmax times the square root of 1 minus x squared over capital X squared. And lastly, the period formula derived directly from a spinning circle flawlessly matches a bouncing spring. Capital T equals 2 pi times the square root of m over k.
But I'm going to leave you with one final thought. Everything we just explored assumed that our turntable spun at a perfectly constant speed forever. But what happens to the math, and what happens to our perfect waves, when real-world friction inevitably drags that turntable to a grinding halt? The amplitude shrinks, the energy drains out of the system, and figuring out exactly how that works is going to lead us straight into our next explainer on damped harmonic motion. I'll see you